You're listening to the voice note you didn't know you needed by Denise Cardenas.
So, there is a lot of advice about being visible, being authentic, being consistent, but not a lot of conversations about how people actually process those experiences before sharing them on social media to the world. It's about noticing how you actually operate. That is one of the biggest things that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about. They're just being told, do it this way, but you're not actually focusing on if that actually works for you. So, from my personal experience, there's two types of content that I personally have experimented with. And the first one is I like to call it reactive content. This is when you are creating content in the emotional moment as that moment is happening. That type of content can really feel very cathartic and very healing, very honest, very raw in the moment. I see it on TikTok a lot where I see people vulnerably crying on camera, sharing whatever they're going through at that moment. It's an incredible thing to see. And that is what I call reactive content. Another type of content is called integrated content. This is where you have experienced something and you're creating that content and sharing that experience after you had time to sit with it, time to reflect on it. You have clarity of that experience, you have context of that experience, and you share that through your content, right? It's not, this just happened to me, right? This is more like, this happened to me and this is why it happened to me, or, this is what I learned from it, or whatever the case is, right? It's a lot calmer, a lot more grounded, a lot more intentional. These are the two types of content that I feel that I am more prone to, but it doesn't mean I want to just kind of point out the differences that I see in the type of content. So you can come out of this episode and know, like, oh, I could love creating content like this. No, I love creating the content this way, or vice versa. So when I personally started experimenting with reactive content, this was me giving this advice to post the content in that moment, whatever I was feeling, post it and just let it go. And this was good advice at that time because I was stuck. I was stuck in not knowing what to post. I was doubting myself. I was overthinking everything. I just didn't know what to post. I would try to make it so perfect that at the end, I wouldn't even post it. So I remember at that time, I was advised just post it, just go with it and let it go. And that way you can just kind of free yourself from that overthinking moment of trying to make it all perfect. I think at the end of the day, I was too consumed with trying to make everything so perfect. So reactive content helped me with that. It helped me just get out of my head and just not overthink it and so forth. But the more I did it, the more I realized for me personally that I would have a little bit of regret and also moments of like, that is not what I meant because I didn't have contents or time to really sit with it and really take time to figure out what I really meant with that. Right. And it worked until it didn't. I started kind of regretting what I was putting out there, and it wasn't so much because of my perfectionism, which I thought that's what it was, but I started to notice that I was like, oh, that's not what I meant. And I was like, I meant this. So that's when now I feel like I'm leaning toward a little bit more toward integrated content. And I didn't realize that until I allowed myself to kind of experiment with it. And what this means is like now, if I have an idea, I'll jot it down and I'll come back to it, see what I really mean through this specific idea that I had. And I noticed that when I started to do that, I felt more confident. I had so much clarity toward my message. I started to actually enjoy creating content a lot more consistently versus the reactive when I was doing it. Yes, I would just post it and let it go, but I wasn't as consistent. I feel like I'm a lot more consistent because I'm actually creating content of what I actually mean to put out there. And I'm able to articulate my experiences a lot better because I'm able to sit with it. For example, I remember when I first started recording these podcast episodes, I would just record it, walk away from it. Walk away thinking, "Oh my god, this was the most worst podcast episode I recorded. I was rambling and so forth." And I kinda let it sit for a little bit, and maybe I took a couple of days and I re-listened to it to see if I could salvage anything from that episode, and I was like, "Oh my god, this episode is so good." So, that's what I mean by integrated content. Just kinda sit with it and just feel like if it still feels good to put out there. And it's not because of perfectionism, I feel anymore. I wanna make sure that I'm articulating what I actually mean so I don't have any regrets of like, "Oh, that is not what I meant." And it's not saying like you can never change your mind. It's not that. It's just the way it feels as I'm creating the content. And that's what feels good for me. So now I'm able to jot down ideas, come back to it, which one feels best, and just kind of creating with intention. That's what I love about it. It's creating with intention and allowing myself to evolve as I go with my content. And that's what I feel integrated content really has done for me. What matters here is that you're noticing how you're feeling when you're creating this content. Is it easier? Is it harder? Is it heavier? Right? Do you feel rushed? Do you regret posting too quickly? Or do you feel like stuck waiting for clarity? And it doesn't mean that I have this rigid schedule. It just means I'm able to create a lot easier now that create now from integrated content. So that's what I want you to notice. And if you're starting to realize that a lot of the traditional content advice hasn't really fit you, because I know for me, I'm guilty of providing generic tips back in the day of social media, what type of content to create and so forth. And now where I am now, I'm starting to realize, oh my gosh, like it really depends on how you naturally operate, right? I can tell you to post X, Y, and Z, and it doesn't mean you will feel excited to create content, to feel like obligated and so forth. And I noticed when I finally started focusing more on how I actually operate, it feels so good. Like I'm able to give myself grace when I don't have ideas or don't have inspiration or don't feel like recording and being okay with it because I'm allowing myself to figure out what feels good to me and not feel guilty for it. That's when I started to really focus on how I operate, how I create content, what makes me feel good, realizing how my body tenses or how draining I get when I think of creating content. It's just really understanding myself a lot more. So, what I did, I put together a short guide called A Content Strategy That Feels Like You. It's not about the algorithm. It's not about forcing consistency. It's about helping you understand how you naturally create, process, and share, right? And in this episode, if this episode really resonates with you, this might be helpful for you. So it's a free guide. You're welcome to grab it. I'll have it in the link below this episode. Content doesn't have to feel heavy. As business owners, we could see that posting content on social media is a benefit, right? But we have burned it to the ground of forcing ourselves to create content every single day that is not enjoyable anymore. But if we actually bring back that spark of sharing our experience, sharing our business, sharing our knowledge, it actually can be fun. A free platform to share on social media, whatever platform you're currently using right now, to be able to share to the world, not just locally, the world, right? Seeing how this is such a great tool that we shouldn't take for granted. And also allow yourself to change how you create, right? This took me a little while to actually start creating in a way that I actually like and operate versus what I have been trained so rigidly to create as, with a heavy content plan and having a video schedule where I'm recording and writing content and so forth. And I allowed myself to have that flexibility to figure out how I operate best so I can be consistent, so I can enjoy what I'm actually doing. And you're allowed to take your time. I hope this voice note is something that you needed to hear. And let me know in the comments your biggest takeaway from this if you have already been able to test these types of contents out? What resonates with you? Which one do you feel like you feel best doing a reactive content or integrated content or both, right? There's no wrong or wrong way. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you guys soon.